You know, when you open the Gospel of Matthew, the very first thing you run into is this long list of names, a genealogy. And let's be honest, it's the kind of thing most of us just kind of skim right over, right? But what if I told you that list isn't just a list? What if it's actually an epic drama?
Seriously, let's dive into this. You have to remember who Matthew's talking to, a Jewish audience that knows these names. He's laying out the entire royal history of Israel in just a few short verses, and it is all building to one massive, incredible point.
Because this is so much more than some dusty old family tree. It's the story of a kingdom's incredible rise and its absolutely tragic fall. It's packed with heroes, villains, and a throne that was promised to last forever. So let's trace this royal line together, specifically in verses 6 through 11, and watch the incredible story he's telling unfold.
We're going to start at the absolute peak. This isn't just any family. This is the royal family. And Matthew kicks things off with the two most legendary kings in all of Israel's history. This is the high watermark.
It all starts with David, the shepherd boy who becomes a warrior king. I mean, this guy was the gold standard. Every single king who came after him was going to be measured against him. He reigned for 40 years, united the entire nation, and was famously known as a man after God's own heart. But here's the thing you absolutely have to get for the rest of this story. He received a divine promise that his throne, his royal family, would last forever.
And the absolute high point of that promise? Well, it was realized in David's son Solomon. When he took the throne, he kicked off an era of peace and power that was just unheard of. He was blessed with this legendary wisdom, he built a glorious temple in Jerusalem, and his wealth was the stuff of legends. For a moment, it really looked like David's eternal throne was off to an incredible, unbeatable start.
But that golden age was about to come to a sudden and catastrophic end. After Solomon dies, his son takes the throne, and with one single, breathtakingly arrogant decision, he completely shatters the kingdom his grandfather built.
This right here, this is the quote that broke a kingdom. Solomon's son, Rehoboam, is asked by the people to maybe, just maybe, lighten up on the heavy taxes his dad had imposed. But instead of showing any wisdom, he completely rejects the advice of his elders and hits back with this infamous threat. He's basically promising to be an even harsher, more brutal ruler than his powerful father ever was. And the fallout was immediate. It was disastrous. The 10 northern tribes, they revolted. And just like that, only one generation after Solomon, the United Kingdom is fractured. Forever. Rehoboam is left with just the tiny southern kingdom of Judah. The glorious empire was gone. So who's the next name on Matthew's list? It's Abiah, Rehoboam's son. And the Bible gives this grim, quick summary of his 3-year reign. He basically just continued all the terrible things his father started. The downward spiral wasn't just beginning, it was already picking up serious speed. Okay, so the next phase of the kingdom is, well, it's a dizzying roller coaster of leadership. For centuries, the fate of Judah just swings wildly back and forth between righteous kings trying to fix everything and wicked kings who just drag the nation deeper and deeper into darkness. And you see this pattern right away. After the wicked Abiah, you get his son Asa, a reformer who reigned for 41 years, tearing down idols. And his son, Jehoshaphat, was also a good king who followed his father's lead. But then came his son, Joram. Oh boy. He marries into the notoriously evil family of Ahab and Jezebel, murders all of his own brothers to secure his throne, and fills the land with pagan worship. The whiplash is just breathtaking.
Now, what's really interesting here is that it's not always so black and white. The next king Matthew lists, Uzziah, was actually a pretty good king. I mean, he reigned for over 50 years. But his pride got the better of him. He tried to do a priest job in the temple, a major no-no, and for that, God struck him with leprosy. He had to live out the rest of his days in total isolation. What a tragic end for an otherwise successful king.
And that roller coaster just keeps on going. Uzziah's son, Jotham, was another good king who built up the kingdom. But his son, Ahaz, was an absolute catastrophe. I mean, this man was so depraved he offered his own son as a human sacrifice. He shut the doors of the Lord's temple and littered Jerusalem with pagan altars. The kingdom was on the very edge of total collapse.
Okay, now we reach the point of no return. As we get closer to the end of this royal line, the swings between good and evil become even more extreme. I'm talking some of the absolute best kings in Judah's history, immediately followed by the absolute worst. And this, right here, is what seals the kingdom's fate.
Out of the pure darkness of Ahaz's reign comes this brilliant, shining light. His son, Hezekiah. This guy was a radical reformer, a man of incredible faith, who spent his entire reign just cleaning up his father's mess. He reopened a temple, smashed all the idols, and when the massive Assyrian army surrounded Jerusalem, he prayed, and God miraculously saved the city. He's a hero. But then comes the most shocking, the most tragic turn in this entire family tree. Hezekiah's son, Manasseh, didn't just fail to live up to his dad's legacy. He actively worked to destroy it. He became the most wicked king Judah had ever known. The list of his sins is just horrifying. He rebuilt every single pagan altar his father tore down. He placed idols inside the Lord's temple, and he even practiced child sacrifice. And get this, he did this for 55 years. That's the longest reign of any king in Judah's history. 55 years of spiritual poison. After him and his equally evil son Amon, the kingdom was spiritually broken, seemingly beyond any hope of repair.
But there was one last flicker of hope. Amon's son, Josiah, becomes king when he's just 8 years old, and he grows up to be a great reformer, a lot like his great-grandfather Hezekiah. He actually finds the long-lost Book of the Law in the temple, and it sparks this huge national revival. But really, it was too little, too late. The damage was just too deep.
And that brings us to the final verse in this section, verse 11. After Josiah dies, the kingdom completely collapses in just one generation. It ends with the destruction of Jerusalem and its people being dragged off into exile in Babylon. The last king Matthew names before the exile is Jeconiah. And his reign? Pathetic. He was on the throne for a grand total of 3 months before the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar showed up at the gates. He was captured and taken to Babylon in chains. The throne of David was now empty. But wait, it gets even worse. The prophet Jeremiah spoke a devastating prophecy directly against King Jeconiah, a divine curse. The curse declared that none of his descendants would ever again prosper while sitting on the throne of David. So let that sink in. The royal line was now officially finished. It ended not just in failure and exile, but under a divine curse.
And this is the giant, massive question that Matthew just leaves hanging in the air for his readers. He's carefully traced the royal line from its glorious peak with David all the way down to its bitter, cursed end. That divine promise of an eternal throne, it looks completely and totally broken. So how is it even possible for the Messiah, the Son of David, to ever show up? That is the tension Matthew has masterfully created. And the rest of his gospel is the answer.